All right, hello everybody. Thanks for being on the channel. We've got some fractions to work with today. Um, I don't have all of them out, but these are the fraction end sets. And as you can hopefully see, at least somewhat, that we've got the whole, we've got halves, thirds, fourths, and fifths right now. I also have a stack of cards that have different fractions on them. Now these go up to 10, so you'd have to have out all of the metal insets. We have those in our classroom, but I don't have them out right now. But one thing you could start doing with children is just identifying some fractions. Fractions tend to be one of the hardest things for children to understand. Maybe adults do. And so there's no rush with it. You keep it very simple at first. And you should be working on this first grade and every year thereafter. So maybe you present a card or two of fractions that you know are in front of you, and talk about how to make them. Usually we point out the top and the bottom numbers. I don't usually talk about the official words numerator and denominator right away, but pretty quickly. Partly because I also want to see what they already know. So sometimes I'll say, like, well, what is this? And children will, they'll often not know, or they'll say 3, 4, or 3 and 4, things like that. But they might say 3/4, and some of the children might be able to sort of pick that out or try to make it. So it sort of depends on who you're working with. But you might hand this to a child. If you have a group of children, you could lay it in front of them and see if they could try to make it. And sometimes we talk about them in terms of families. So if we have 3/4 or 3/4, that's in the fourths family, but we don't have all of them there. We only have 3. The 3 shows the parts of the whole family. So 3/4. So we know we need fourths, and I like to physically separate. So I'll maybe move all the other fractions to the side more. Really try to focus in. Okay, that's 3/4. I mean, that's the fourths, but there's 4 of them. That would be 4/4 if the whole family was there. But we want 3/4, so we need to remove one of those. And then typically children should be drawing and labeling. So they would take these metal insets out and trace out the 3/4. This works great when you have multiple children doing the work or the lesson, because they can each use one of the fourths to draw out 3/4 because they're equal. So you can kind of talk about that. Sometimes I've had a number of students say, well, I want to do that right now, the fourths. And another child, I want to do that right now. And you could say, well, you both can. There's a way to do that. So see if they can kind of make that and work with it. And do a number of those. Like I said at the beginning, go slow. Take your time. Make sure that they're kind of getting the main idea. There's 4/4. Can we make that right after we made 3/4? Oh, there's a hole. My card's cut funny. How about this? You can do a lot of introductory lessons here. You could compare 3/3 and 1 whole. Let's make those. 1 whole, the whole piece. Oh, it even says 1 whole underneath. And then we can do 3/3. Well, greater than, less than, or equal. I don't know. Sometimes that concept, they can maybe see that they're equal, but maybe not. You could say, well, if you're not sure, what you could do is you could take out the 3/3 and see how the whole does sticking. Oh, look at that. It's a perfect fit. That means 1 whole is the same as 3/3. 3/3 equals 1, or 1 whole. So, to an adult, a lot of these things seem kind of simple, but to a young child, you want to slow down and really explain this, and you really want them to be able to use hands-on materials like this to work with it. Now, with the metal insets, you can get into addition and subtraction, multiplication, division. You can do a lot of stuff with fractions with these, but don't try to do all that too quickly, or it's got to be developmentally appropriate. And so for a six-year-old, or let's just say a first grader in most cases, this kind of work is about right. Identifying fractions, writing them, even writing them is a challenge. Children will often write a 3 and then a 3 right after it, so it looks like 33. Or they'll write it just like it is on the card, but without the line in the middle. They tend to, in first grade, be writing backwards numbers. So that's a big challenge. If they're writing backwards numbers, if they're just struggling to write numbers, doing fractions like this is a whole nother level for them. So you want to go slow and careful. Slowly introduce more things. Oh, okay, well, was that feeling pretty easy, that 3/3 equals 1 whole? What is this? Well, there's 2 of them. So there's 2 halves. Another way we can say that is 2/2, or 2/2, 2 halves. Well, let's see. Let's look at this one. What are these? There's 4 of them, and they're all there. So 4 of the fourths, 4/4, 2 halves. Well, what can we notice about this? Oh, let's explore this a little bit. I think I just proved that a half is the same as 2/4. Oh, maybe we draw and write that in our notebooks. Trace, 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 write a half and 2/4. Well, I wonder what this would be. You can get kind of abstract if you want to just, again, depending on the student. A half and a fourth? Yeah, but what else could you, well, we could think of it like this. Do we know what this would be? 3/4. So what would this be? 3/4. All right. And so, you can kind of play around with them a little bit like that to sort of show. I often, that's another way to show it. I often will dismiss children from a lesson too by checking a little bit to see. If you had a group of, say, 6 children watching you talk about this, probably 4 of them will really get it. 1 of them will kind of get it, and 1 of them will have still no clue. They weren't really listening. So go through and ask them to say something at the end of the lesson. It's okay. Ask the one child, what is this fraction? Okay, great. It sounds like It's kind of a simple, quick way to get some idea of, to sort of assess them, to get an idea of what they learned. How about this one? Just little variations. What about this one? Okay. And kind of dismiss them based on that, so that when they come back to do the work and to practice it, you kind of know whether they will be able to get going on it and have some idea of how to work with it. Now, fractions being so hard, like I've said several times, you could also repeat these things that you practice multiple weeks. So sometimes we do that, where we will introduce something, they'll practice it that week, and they'll have some struggles. They'll ask for a lot of help and really need a lot of reteaching. Well, just repeat that same lesson the next week. Either redo the lesson itself or just redo the practice until they're feeling really solid with it. They should be able to do it pretty independently and be feeling some confidence with it before you move on to the next thing. I'd say that's a common mistake teachers make with fractions. because a lot of times these first lessons seem so simple and to us as adults, but then as children, it's a whole nother thing. And so, you know, it's best to go slow and careful with it all. And also, the children will learn at different rates. So some of them might be ready for the next lesson the next week, and some of them may not be. So you can start teaching different levels of lessons then. And then, of course, once you've worked with these quite a bit, you can start adding in the higher fractions, the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, possibly even beyond, but I'd say mostly those are great for 1st through 3rd grade. But if they really understand this concept and they can add and subtract and maybe they're starting to multiply, you can introduce the other fractions too. But make sure that they get this, because there are a lot of children, I'll go into a little philosophical part here. There are a lot of children that can do fractions in schools. If you ask them to multiply fractions, they can, say in 5th grade, they can multiply fractions, but they don't understand the concrete reason why they got their answer. So when they start getting into other things, they don't really understand it. Same with division. They just flip, get a reciprocal of the second fraction, multiply it, they can get the answer. Well, that's not very impressive. To be honest, to get the right answer is not super challenging, particularly in upper grades. What's far more impressive is if a child can truly understand why the answer is what it is. Perhaps in 3rd grade, they're teaching that to younger children. If they can teach it, then it shows that they really deeply understand it. So I would rather you go slow with these lessons and really make sure it's clicking with children than to just speed through it for the sake of meeting some state standard or some expectation from your community, to just get the correct answers and not have that deep level of understanding. Okay, a little bit of an introduction to fractions. We'll do more. Thanks again, everybody, for the support.